If a relationship is not growing, where is it going? When my husband and I would get into a disagreement, it didn't go my way, I would give him the silent treatment. And when we went to therapy, she said, it is childish and it is emotional abuse. You have to stop doing that. We've been together 25 years. So that was a very big thing to change.
There's always going to be tension in a relationship. What do you think those little taps are for you guys, that where you just like let off this emotional stuff so it doesn't build up and be overwhelming?
When it comes to relationships, as soon as we mention we have been so disconnected now for weeks, I don't know what to do. Why can't it just be a normal thing to say we are going through a difficult patch? That's the sort of world we need to live in if we want to see a real relationship change.
But why do you think you don't?
It's the shame and guilt. Imagine, even in disagreements, loving, caring and kind, and throw in a sprinkle of respect. Flip me, we've got a good recipe there, don't we?
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Authentic Man Podcast. And today I have with me a wonderful woman who is a relationship coach, is working with people, helping them in relationships for many, many years. And unlike many relationship coaches, she also has been in a very happy relationship, that's marriage, for a very long time, almost as long as I've been alive, from what I checked before, which I think is in itself is deserving of an award. Today we have with us Lisa. How are you doing today, Lisa?
Hi, I'm great. I have a little bit of a croaky throat, but apart from that, I am perfect.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. The question I want to dive in actually is, what was the moment, because I know that, you know, relationship coaching hasn't been what you've done forever. What was the moment that you realized, like, shit, I should do this. I'm good at this.
When my husband and I went to therapy.
And you were like, therapist, just get out of that chair. Let me sit here. I can do this.
We were together 25 years. We were driving home in the car and I was like, how have we even got to 25 years not knowing this stuff? Like, it was ridiculous. And then my backup was, everyone needs to know this stuff. And my poor husband just kept going, yep, yeah, yep. And as the universe would have it, a life coaching course landed on my lap for me to try, basically. So I started training and then the two sort of just collided.
It's a beautiful story, because it's, you know, I come from, my story is that I came into my work as working with men in this area to through my own pain and dysfunction. But I guess, you know, as you said there, how have we got this far? Like, without knowing this stuff. But I think the question, I guess, is maybe you see this in your work, I see this in mine, is many people, like, they don't even think they should try and learn anything, right? They just think, well, this is, you know, a relationship. I know how to do this somehow, you know, automatically I should be able to do this very complex thing. Why do you think we have that belief that we should just be able to do it?
My couples will say things to, I'll say, so why do you argue in that style? Well, that's just the way you do it. It's programming, you know, it's what we saw growing up. I gave my husband the silent treatment. We call it here in Belfast huffing. I know in London it's a whole different thing, because I've been on a podcast where it went viral and the huffing thing was very amusing. So we call it huffing. I know it's not the same thing. Silent treatment. So I used the silent treatment when my husband and I would get into a disagreement and it didn't go my way. I would give him the silent treatment for days upon days. And I just thought that's what everybody did, because I saw my mummy doing that. So it didn't really work for her. So I'm not quite sure how my subconscious really got that organized. But anyway, and when we went to therapy, for lots of other reasons, but obviously my conflict style came up, I gave her the silent treatment for the whole session when she told me I wasn't allowed to do it anymore. It was not my best day, David. It was not my best day. My husband was very happy because he got lots to talk about that day. And she said, is this how it is? And he said, yes, exactly how it is. And she said, it is childish and it is emotional abuse. You have to stop doing that. So I had to stop doing that, David. Yeah, I stopped doing that. And it was very, very, very difficult. And I was 42 at that stage. So, and we've been together 25 years. So that was a very big thing to change, you know. I think it gives me knowledge now for my couples when they're maybe in their 30s and they're saying, but that's how I do it. I'm like, well, I did it this way till I was 45. So if I can change, you can change. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in your camp actually. That is my my programmed way of doing conflict is avoiding conflict first of all, shutting down, not talking. I'm classically avoidant, of course. And I wouldn't talk, you know, like you said, silent treatment and so forth. And one of the things I think people often think that silent treatment is that it's a deliberate abuse. Like the person who's being silent is trying to hurt the other person or punish them in some way for something they've done. That's often the feeling that I know that my ex-partners and even some of the guys that I've coached have felt. What is it really?
Yeah. Well, at the baseline, it's programming. But for me, it was a punishment. For me, it was a punishment. Like I was terrible. Like if we could have had people over for dinner or a barbecue and I would have been perfectly lovely and then the door would close and I would go back to giving my husband the silent treatment. So it was a punishment and it was terrible. I am embarrassed and ashamed about it. But I do think it was one of the big things that brought me to this work. So I have to embrace it in some ways, not do it again, but embrace the knowledge. Yeah. But for some people, it is shutting down as a protection. It's more, I have to, and we would sometimes find this more for men, you know, we talk about going to the man cave. So, you know, we sometimes say that, you know, for men, it's more a shutting down or maybe even a processing. And there's a minute that's okay, maybe 10 minutes, maybe half an hour that's okay, that we just are overwhelmed and we have to process. But it should never last more than 24 hours. And if we can get that processing done in 10 minutes, that would be even better.
It's ideal. That's the ideal of the time. Yeah.
Especially because if you're an avoidant, you'll attract an anxious. And leaving that anxious for 10 minutes will be quite long enough.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know I could do it for weeks, and I've met men. I've worked with men who are like, I've really, you know, we had a disagreement 3 weeks ago, and we barely spoken since. And you're like, oh, why is that? They're like, well, I don't really know what to say. I don't know what to say. This is a classic one, and I definitely resonate with this. It's like, I don't know what to say that won't make it worse or hurt some more. So I haven't come to the conclusion of the perfect thing, the perfect words that I can utter, and it will magically make everything better in this moment. So I haven't spoken at all about anything ever since. That's something that they've never said those exact words, but that's the kind of energy, the idea that they're conveying when I speak to them.
Yeah. And there's a quality in there that's actually trying to be kind. But it's not landing. Your partner is not over here going, you know, they're trying to be kind because they haven't spoke to me for 3 weeks. You know, that's not how that's landing at all.
No, definitely. It's not. If the intention is good, but the execution is poor. And I think that's an important thing to kind of get between when it comes to, you know, when we're relating, because I think a lot of the time people's intentions, you know, my belief is, and I'm curious about how you see it, my belief is that most people's intentions are good. Their execution is just really bad.
Yes. So my intention was to bring something up to my husband for us to resolve it. My intention was good, but my execution was terrible, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like change of track, but you know, there's a lot of negativity about dating and relationships, I think, in this modern age. Like, you know, it kind of sometimes feels like no one is happy. No one's in a happy relationship. No one is enjoying dating. Why do you think there is so much of this negativity around in the kind of space, in the ether for people?
Well, sometimes I think the opposite, David. Sometimes all I see is these like highlight reels and I'm like, nobody's relationship could actually be like this. Like, this is just ridiculous, you know? But what we do know is that dating is very difficult. I am not a dating coach, so you'd have to get Paul Brunson on here or something to do that for you. But what we do know is half of the people who are in relationships are miserable. Yeah, and they are just staying for the kids, or they are just staying. My whole thing is, of course you're miserable. You don't know how to do it. You haven't got the tips and tools. You haven't educated yourself. I always say when we have children, We have no shame and guilt about reading the books, talking to our friends, talking to our male friends and saying, okay, what's it actually like? What is it really like? Are the sleepless nights that bad? Like, how insane is it going to be? We have no problem with that. We have no problem as mums saying to our friends, I cannot get this child to use the potty. Like, they just will not get out of these. We have no shame about that sort of thing. We have a little bit of embarrassment if our child has a temper tantrum in Tesco's, but we again go to friends and we go, oh my dear goodness, it's a natural part of parenting. It's a natural part of life. But when it comes to relationships, as soon as we mention, oh my days, we have been so disconnected now for weeks, I don't know what to do. People have you to divorce court, Why can't it just be a normal thing to say, we are going through a difficult patch. We are going through, we have teenagers and they're, draining the emotional life out of you, and you and your partner have nothing left for each other. Why is it not okay to be able to say, look, we're reading this great book when we've really thought it's really helping our relationship? Why is it not okay to say, look, we're getting engaged. We want to go to a relationship coach a couple of times to make sure that we have all the information we could possibly need. That's the sort of world we need to live in if we want to see a real relationship change. Yeah. That's just my little rant.
Yeah. But why do you think you don't?
When I think people don't, it's the shame and guilt. And guilt. I think the shame and guilt has got slightly better over the last 10 years. I think Instagram and TikTok have definitely helped in that sort of regard. I mean, I coach young guys, maybe 25, and they're talking about their love languages. They're talking about their attachment style. 10 years ago, that wouldn't be heard of. And still in my generation, still like 45 into 50s into 60s, it's still just a bit like, oh, just get on with it. We're all going to go through bad times. You just get on with it. We're married 30 years now. What are you going to do? There's a lot of this still around my age group. And there would be a resistance around my age group to do anything that was real change. This is just how it is now. I would be more that the mindset where people who come to me in their 20s and 30s, they have educated themselves, they maybe even have read a few books about relationships. But I still do think there is a guilt and shame about saying, oh, we're going to a relationship coach. We've learned so much. I just think there's a stigma maybe still about it. We're getting there. And whenever I started, it was definitely not the way it is now. And I'd say for the first couple of years, nobody ever came to me by word of mouth. No one ever came and said, my friend told me about you, or I'm going to say now 50% of my people are like, my friend was following you on Instagram and then they said, or my brother-in-law and his wife actually came to you. They got great results, so we thought we'd give it a go. The pendulum is definitely swinging. And I do think shows like, Married at First Sight and, Celebrities Go Dating, I do think they are normalizing it, which is great.
Yeah. No, I was thinking of the celebrity culture around relationship coaching and even therapy. People like Will and Jada talking about having therapy, having their own troubles. The shows like even like Love is Blind. I've been watching Love is Blind recently. Just this idea of that we're starting to see other people in their kind of patterns, and being like, oh wow, I do that, and oh God, look, that's created this in this relationship. Oh God, that's maybe what I'm doing. It's just this normalization. Whereas I guess in the past, I'm thinking back, like I'm 41 now, and I think when I was young, there was no TV shows that broke down relationships. You even got that show, what was it called? Couples Therapy, for instance, right? And there was no shows that talked about relationships and talked about how they worked and how they were and what doesn't work and what doesn't go well. All we had was Blind Date. There was nothing that really allowed us to like learn about relationships. And, I, for one, I look back at my past and I see this sometimes with the men that I work with, is that I was just like, this is how I am and I can't do anything about it. And I find this attitude interesting because I can resonate with it, where I've met a lot of men and they're like, in my business, I'm all about growth. in with my physique. I'm all about growth and nutrition and health and maximizing and blah, 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 blah. And then you say, so, but in your relationship, you shut down and that's just how it is and it can never change. And and I'm like, so you've got growth mindset here and you've got growth mindset here and you've got growth mindset, but so what would it look to have a growth mindset in relationship? And I never said this to one guy. And he took about 5 minutes to answer the question because he was just blown. He was like, I have never once thought about that, you know, never thought that I could change how I relate to partners. And he was just like, oh my God, all these things I've been doing in relationship, this could have been different if I just thought about them differently. And I was like, well, yeah. Could well
absolutely.
be.
And making that culture of if we're going to be with somebody for 40, 50, God, 60 years, there's going to be different relationships in that relationship, if that makes sense. So maybe you have kids, maybe you don't have kids, maybe you start a business, maybe you're a stay-home mum for a while, maybe you're a stay-home dad for a while, maybe you're both self-employed, maybe there's going to be so many outside changes. And then we have if you do have children, that your children are starting to leave the nest, it's a whole new, that sort of thing. My husband and I went to a concert last night in Belfast and we booked tickets at 5:00 last night. And our 22-year-old was like, what is happening in the world right now? I was like, I know. Dad and I get to do lastminute.com now. We don't actually have to wait and see what everybody else in the household is doing. We get to decide this now, And it's a beautiful part of relationship. But I don't think at the start of relationship we say, okay, you're going to change. I'm going to change. We need to be able to make a little, almost like a petri dish that's okay for that to grow in.
And you just see that people commonly struggle with the change in their relationships.
Yep, lots of people. There's a lot of information now about menopause and how the divorce rate goes up exponentially during female menopause. And you think to yourself, I'm sure within a few years we'll get a little bit more data about that. But is it that we've raised our children and we're like, no, I want more now, and is there a moment there for men in their 50s are just like, okay, this is our life now. This is what we do. This is our life. And they're just sort of hunkered down to this is their norm, where their female partner is like, no, this is my second, third chapter now. I want to go for this. And there's a space there for that discussion, Who knows? I'm sure we'll find more out in the next few years when we start talking about all these things. Yeah.
Yeah. I laugh because actually I've got a few clients of mine whose partners are going through menopause and it's caused all sorts of upheaval in the relationship and the shifts and change. But I guess we also have the classical midlife crisis of a man as well, don't we? And I see this quite commonly in the man gets to late 30s, 40s, that sort of kind of 10-year bracket. And he's suddenly realized that he's devoted his whole life to his family and his kids and to his wife and to making money and a job that he hates. And then he's suddenly like, am I going to do this for another 20, 30 years? And, lucky enough, some of these guys end up at my doorstep and we're like, okay, so what's important? They don't necessarily think this. The classical one is he leaves his wife, he gets a sports car, he finds a 25-year-old and gets married because there's some desire to hold on to something. And I guess I'm wondering, is that also something, not necessarily the midlife crisis, but the holding on, when there is change afoot, as you said, these different chapters and these different aspects of the relationship, you're going from maybe the early days of the relationship where it's just the two of you and you just moving in together and it's all fun, or it's all fun at the beginning stage and you move in together and it becomes a bit more like routine, and then maybe you have children and then the routine is something different. I've got a 1-year-old, so that's where I'm at right now. And then they're moving into these different stages of school and stuff. And I guess, how do people try and hold on to, what are some of the ways you see people trying to hold on to the previous phases or phase of their relationships?
I don't see people trying to hold on so much. I see people more not growing. So what we know is if a relationship or anything is not growing, where is it going? So if we're not deepening that connection, if we're not working on the relationship, if we are not developing, think of it as a business. If your business is just sitting there, it's just going to stagnate and you're going to get really bored with it. My husband always says, so what's the next plan? What's happening now? What's happening? I'm like, well, what I was thinking was, da, 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 da. And it could be something about putting up a new shelf in the kitchen, or it could be something about the business, or it could be something about planning a holiday. But if a relationship is not going somewhere, if it's not growing, what's happening? It's just stagnating. Yeah. And that's never a good place to be. Never a good place to be.
Because it starts to slip backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. And there starts to be animosity and resentment and, well, I would love to do this, but sure, they won't do that. And I would love to go here, but sure, they won't do that. And just gets very, very constricted, doesn't it?
And that bit there you mentioned about they won't want to do that. It's that projection, that assumption we make about our partners, with the assumption of who they are. How do you see that playing out in people's relationships? Yeah.
Well, most of the assumption is they won't come for coaching, or they won't like it, or women will message me beforehand and they'll want to give me a whole. I'm like, whoa, no, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. We'll just go online and we'll hear everybody's point of view. And, it took me so long to get him here, and there's a lot of negativity about that. And I can't go down that journey with them because then we're already not on an even footing, What we do know is men are more hesitant to come for coaching. But once we can get them there, they do really like it. And they will accept quicker than women sometimes.
Why do they really like it?
They really like it because they like a tool book and they like to fix. Men love to fix. Men love to fix. And most men have played some sort of sport or watched some sort of sport. And whenever I explain to them that, look, did you play soccer? If you played soccer and you played with your right foot, I'm about to teach you how to play with your left, okay? It's going to feel a bit awkward at the start, but you know what? I'm going to get it. You're going to knock it out of the park. Yeah? Guys are like, Lisa, tell me. And like they inevitably look at their partner and go, see, we just didn't know. We just didn't know that. And their female partner looks at me and goes, please, Lord, help me, Lisa. And I'm like, I know. Sometimes women will be a bit more like, but why, Lisa? But why hasn't that worked? Or da-da-da. And I'm like, maybe you and me need to have a wee session and we'll pull those threads. But for a guy, he loves his partner and he wants to love them well. He knows he is doing a poor job, and men hate that, detest it. They detest failing, they detest letting people down, and they detest not being able to fix things, Sometimes when I say to guys, here's what I want you to say next time when she is expressing herself, having a little rant, and when she's expressing herself, I want you to say, is this a listening activity or a fixing activity? And they say, tell me again, Lisa. And I go, listen. And they literally get out a pen and paper and they go, is this a fixing activity or is this, I can do that. And they'll go, I can do that. I can do that. And they look at their partner, I can do that. And they go, and the girl goes, fabulous. And then I'll get a message and go, it worked really well. Like that actually really worked. And I'm like, imagine, or things like putting in words that we can use during conflict. Like you're saying, men sometimes remove for 3 weeks because they don't want to say the wrong thing and they don't want to throw fuel on the fire. So giving words like things like, tell me more about that, sweetheart. How did that hurt? Okay, if the role was reversed, that wouldn't hurt me, but I'm sorry if it landed that way and hurt you. Taking the word you out of your vocabulary when you're in confrontation. Men are like, can't do it. I'm like, let's give it a wee try. Sure, let's give it a wee try. Mom will give it a wee try. And we'll sort of do a little bit of role playing back and forward. And just, David, slowing yourself down, taking the word you, keeps us in the frontal lobe. keeps us conscious, keeps us aware, and we can stay more connected and stay in that emotional tunnel and get to repair. Yeah. Lots of my guys come to me because sex isn't happening. They're not having intimacy. The women are saying, we're not emotionally connected. He doesn't speak to me all week. We're disconnected emotionally. So how does he expect me to have sex? I then say to them, do you want me to get you more sex? Here's what I need you to do. Here's X, Y, and Z that I need you to do through the week. And you're going to get more sex in the weekend. And they're like, brilliant. I just didn't know that. Now I know I can do that. So it's great. I love it. I love it.
And it's interesting, right? Because it's the way you described it, and I've seen this in my work, is like give the man the tools and he will start to use them, especially if we start to see them working. And what I've seen is the woman gets really frustrated because she's like, why didn't he do this before? I told him to do this. Or
I've been saying this for years.
Yeah. And I have a particular theory of what I see happening in these instances of why it doesn't work. So I'm really curious about yourself. Like, what do you see in that what the women are doing that is not leading to the results within the relationships that they want?
Well, I'll have to get a different word for this, but sometimes, let's get a different word. Sometimes I do call my men out on mansplaining things to me. It's like, I've been a coach for a long time now, mate. I don't need this mansplain to me. I got it, you know. But sometimes women, they go round the kitchen, like seriously. I'm lost in the weeds and I am a woman, you know. I'm like, so they start, I'm like, whoa, okay, whoa, wait. And a lot of what women also do is they start off with one bowl, like they start off with one cereal bowl, about the one argument that's, let's metaphorically put this as a cereal bowl, and before we know it, we have lifted the whole kitchen sink and we're throwing over our partner, you know, and the adrenaline gets going and we're on a roll and we start, you know. So, and sometimes women aren't necessarily the best listeners either. They're very good communicators, but I'm like, okay, whoa, stop. What did he just say? And he might have said, I'm sorry about that. I can see how that hurt. But she's keeping going. She's just, I'm like, whoa, stop. Easy, stop. Did you just hear what your partner said? No, but sure I did it. I'm like, whoa, stop one more time. Listen to what your partner is saying. So we need to slow down a little. Sometimes, this is generally, sometimes, and we all know our own person becomes a little bit of white noise to us, you know. You just need that external voice going, this is common. This happens a lot. Here's a good way to try it. You know, here's something different. You know, it's everywhere. Or we become white noise to our children. Our boss sometimes becomes white noise to us. The people we're closest to becomes a bit of white noise, you know. And also maybe our partner hasn't just said it well. And maybe I sometimes am like, okay, let's try one more time. I think what you're trying to say is, but sure, that is what I said. I'm like, but I'm not really sure if you really landed like that. Or I'll say to my people, tell me what you heard when he said that. Or tell me what you heard when she said that. And what they heard is not what was delivered, you know? You need to pick it apart a little bit like that sometimes. Bit of space. Yeah.
I see a lot with women is that they communicate often and they don't deliberately do it in complaint. So they're like, oh, this thing, and it's a complaint, and it starts to feel like a lot of men that it almost just feels like they've listened to their mothers when they were kids complaining about the things that they did. And it's like you said, it becomes white noise and they tune out of it. But it's always lands when I talk to them, and I even see when you see them together, that's the most magical thing. When you see a couple communicating together and you can watch them. And you are very much what you said about they're going around the houses. It's like they're trying to talk about something, but they're not willing to actually just say the sentence, which is the thing. They're talking about all the feelings about something that's on the edge of the thing. And the man just gets lost. He just gets lost in the emotion. And then there's this feeling of attack. Like there's all these negative emotions that she's having. This is all my fault. I must be a terrible human being. And his brain switches from, you know, executive function into like amygdala, emotions and feelings, and feeling like a small child. And he stops listening. She notices there's some level of disconnection. She's not really paying attention. She gets angry, and there's this constant escalation that often happens where they just kind of basically trigger each other. But the key thing I see often is this, often with women, it's this kind of picking at him. Everything he does, not everything he does, but so many things he's done is like, I'm picking at that, and it's a constant experience he has, and he feels like he can do nothing right. And this is not all people, but it's something I see quite commonly where they can't get anything to work right.
Two things in there. We're all guilty of using these big, small words, but big statements. They're always late. They always do this. They never show up. I mean, nobody's always late. You're going to be on time once out of 100, you know, these big words. And I would call people out on that in my sessions. Okay, well, is he always? Does he never? These are, well, you know what I mean. But you know what I mean? You just said he always. And, you know, or you just said she always. Oh, okay, well, she doesn't always. I'm like, okay, well, let's start there. So we've misspoke to start off with, okay? We've misspoke. So we're off not to a great start. So let's try that again, you know? Let's try to keep it fun like that. I also have hundreds of women who say, he's so good. He does everything. But all I want is for him to sit down and have a chat with me. So what is he doing? He's speaking acts of service when she wants time. Yeah. So her love language of that evening is time. She does not care about the floor not being mopped. She'll get to that, or he'll get to that when the kids go to bed. She has been maybe lonely all day, or with the kids all day, or busy at work all day, and maybe carrying a lot of mental load. She wants his time. And he's so good, but it's not landing properly. Make sense?
Totally.
I hear that all the time.
Yeah. And I guess I always feel like those men, they're kind of erased in the conversation we talk about relationships, because usually the standard conversation is like, all men are useless. He's not like towing his weight. And you have these good men, and I, you know, like you, sounds like you've met a lot of them. I've met a lot of these good men who they pour, you know, they're doing 60% of what they can do, plus working and all the other bits and pieces. And they feel their wives, their partners are still not happy. There's still something wrong. But often in the conversation about relationships, those men really are like, we'll not pretend, but the conversation is so one-dimensional. It's almost like those men don't exist in the world, and no one believes that those men do exist.
I'll also let you know the wee secret. I may get cancelled by my female followers for this one. There's a group of women who will not let their men do. I would have at least one or two couples per week, and he will say, I would love to put the baby to bed. I would love to do bath time. I would love to cook. I would love to do the lunches. I would love to. And their partner has fallen into this perfectionism role by maybe her programming, or what she's watching on Instagram, or the algorithm, or whatever. And she's fallen into this perfectionism, work, mum, mental load, and he is sitting, waiting to be asked, has offered numerous times, and gets told it wasn't done right, or and blah, 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 blah. And the joke I always tell is, I can't watch my husband make me a cup of tea. It is dementing. He does not do it properly, David. But when the tea comes and I'm watching Virgin Island, it's beautiful. Yeah, yeah. So there's maybe a space there that your partner will not do it exactly the way you wanted to do. Like I'm thinking back now to my husband making my children's school lunches. Hilarious. Like not how I would make them at all. But they loved them. They were great. They still talk about them. You know, fun, you know, different way of doing it. There's a little space there as well. Yeah. And the woman will tell me straight up, but he'll not do it right. I'm like, and what is right? Who made right? Who decided that was right? If we want this even playing field, we're going to decide what's right. I mean, and I'm guilty of this too, David. The first time that my husband had to take my children to get their school shoes, I was like, he's not going to do it right. He's just not going to do it right. What is right, David? You know, I mean, what is right, you know? And And there's a little thing in there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen this. I must be a martyr. It's like a kind of martyr archetype, the martyr mother. And if I'm not being the martyr mother or wife, I'm doing something wrong, and I have to control everything. But it's easier to complain to the friends about how he does nothing while martyring oneself, because then we get the payoff. And I think this is maybe something we'll dive into. There's a payoff to all this complaint and not misery, because that's not the word, that complaining, even judgment and blame. There's a payoff we get, right? So in that moment, the martyr mother goes to her friends, man, I do everything. I'm doing everything in the house. I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, I'm looking after the kids. Man, I even work part-time. Everyone goes, oh, poor you. Poor you. Isn't your husband just rubbish? And he's so rubbish. My husband's rubbish too. Oh, our husbands are so rubbish. And everyone...
And now we're all patting each other on the back. Yeah, I mean, when I say to my couples, okay, Sunday afternoon, we're going to get a whiteboard. We're going to get a whiteboard, and we're going to get, and we're going to decide who's doing what. And I can see the female partners like, ooh. I'm like, so what would you like to do? And he'll be like, I'll do the Tesco's order. I'll go to Tesco's. I'll do that. I hear they've an offer on wine at the minute. You know, they're the men. They want jobs. They want to go and hunt and gather. It's easy peasy for them. You know, and the wives are like, oh, but maybe you'll not. And it's like, I'm like, and next time you will get the right one. You know, we've got to encourage each other. We've got to put our best foot forward. We've got to say, sweetheart, see, next time I like this peanut butter better than this one. But thank you so much. That's great. You know, maybe talking to our partners the way we would talk to our friends, in actually a kind way and a loving way, you know. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be special? Imagine. I mean, I often say on my Instagram, even in disagreements, loving, caring, and kind. Loving, caring, and kind, even in disagreements, yeah? And throw in a sprinkle of respect. Flip me. We've got a good recipe there, don't we? This is the person that you are doing the most intimate acts with. This is the person that you are making children with. And they get the worst of you. That's not right. You need to be showing up for your person as the best of you, and they need to be giving you the best of them. Yeah. And if you're really going to if you're out with your friends 4 nights a week and they're getting the happy go lucky, and you're coming home and your partner's getting, you know, the grumpy, miserable, we have to deal with that. Deal with that. If you're the man who's down the pub 4 nights a week with his mates, Mr. Life and Soul of the party, and then you're home and you're just sitting on your phone all night and your partner can't get a word out of you, you have to deal with that. Yeah. This is the person that we're meant to be building a future with, and they're getting the worst of us sometimes, and that's not right.
Yeah. It's just the simple things, isn't it? It's like, you know, we can talk about all these complex ideas when it comes to relationships and stuff, but really it's the simple things I wrote down a word here before, like grace. That this lack of grace that we give each other, like even the example we used about getting the wrong something wrong from Tesco's or whatever, right? You know, if our friend went to Tesco for us and bought us the wrong peanut butter, we wouldn't even mention it. We might go, oh.
Have you actually tried the one that has the less blah, 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 blah? We, a funny thing happened here the other night. Do you have these things? They're like little crispy onions. They're in a little box like this. They're terrible. We shouldn't have them, and they should not be consumed, but they're absolutely gorgeous. You put them in the oven for like 30 seconds, bring them over, and you sprinkle them over whatever. Sprinkling them over peppered chicken is absolutely divine. But anyway, you'll see them now in the shop, where they'll put them on your phone, this advertisement.
Yeah.
But I do a terrible thing where I open the packet before dinner is served. So I might have a few of them, David, eaten, and my eldest daughter was jumping in as well. And my husband came down the stairs, and he'd been to Tesco's. He's very good, David. He's been to Tesco's, and he'd bought 2 of these little packets, but he imagined that they'd last for a couple of nights, you know. So I'd now had both packets on the go, and he said, "Are we using both packets tonight?" And I just looked at him and I went, "I'm interested about that tone." And he said, "Sure, let's use 6 packets tonight. Does it really matter?" And I was like, exactly my thoughts, you know. But it's just given that little bit of not off to the races because our person said one thing that just
Mm.
didn't meet our exact criteria, It was just that, are we using two tonight? And I could have been off to, yeah, we friggin' well are using two tonight. And do you have a problem with it? That would have been a very easy programming for me to go to. But I'm like, I'm just interested, I'm interested in the tone there. What's going on with you, babe? Making it light, making it a little bit joyful, giving it a little bit of grace. Yeah. Yeah.
And I hear in what you're saying there, there's another thing reminds me of the kind of emotional bucket, right? Or, where a lot of people, I was in the hospital last week with my dad. He was having an operation. And we're talking about, like, everyone just seems so angry these days. Like, someone was shouting at a nurse. I was like, what is this? I was like, I don't remember, I sound old when I say this, but when I was a, 20-year-old, I don't remember people being so angry at hospital staff and doctors and people at the train station.
Like windows, yeah.
Everybody wants to shout at people, even in the supermarket. And I was like, and I was explaining this concept to him. I was like, I feel like everybody's emotional bucket is so high, so full these days, and they don't have enough taps to empty it. But what I'm hearing in what you described there with you and your husband was, it sounds like your kind of a shared emotional bucket, your relationship emotional bucket. It doesn't get to being at the brim like most people, right? Where they can't bring in a lot of fun and lightness. There's these little taps that you're constantly, turning just to let out a bit of any sort of tension, because there's always going to be tension in a relationship. And I guess the question I have is, as I say this on the fly, is, what do you think those little taps are for you guys, that where you just like let off this emotional stuff so it doesn't build up and be overwhelming?
Well, first of all, we were very codependent. So 10 years ago, we were absolutely codependent. We grew up in the Pretty Woman and Jerry Maguire, age of, you complete me and all this rubbish. So we had no way of filling our own cup. We did not know how to do that. We drained each other's batteries for that. And that was what really took us to therapy, actually, because we had 3 teenagers, we had a business together, we had lots of things. So we didn't know. I'm going to say lots of men think that their female partner is their, battery. So we have to, and lots of very good men, and being a good dad and being a good this, I don't want to go out with my mates to watch the football. I don't want, it's like, no. You have now lost so much of yourself being so good that you've got nothing to fill your cup. You're the best dad, you're the best husband, when maybe you do go to golf once every other week, and you're bringing back that best self. You need to go to the gym a couple of times a week to bring back that best self. You've become depleted trying to be so good and so committed and so there, so that's something I have to teach my couples about that, I'll say, what did you do for a hobby? And they'll be like, oh, sure, I used to play soccer, or I used to play this, or sure, I used to go with my mates, blah, blah. But sure, the house is so busy, I don't want to go and leave the kids with. And I'm like, okay, now hold on a second. We got to get your cup filled up, because we want to have 2 people with a really good standard of cup, when we're sitting at 8s, 9s, and 10s. So then we can fill the relationship cup and think of the relationship as its own living, breathing thing, which then needs its own taps as well. So it's about saying things to each other like, I'm not sure we handled that the best yesterday. What could we do in future? How could we handle that better? Our eldest daughter has just graduated university, and I was very emotional before the graduation. And my husband was doing the whole, like, what's wrong with you thing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just all over the place. And he had a lot going on at that time. And then after the graduation, I was all happy. And I was like, what's wrong with you? He goes, no, I'm back to where you were. So we just didn't meet each other very well in that moment, which is okay. It happens. So it's about saying, maybe that's a little skill we need to work on, meeting each other in those stressful times. Maybe we need to work on that. That's something that we need to put in, it's like release that tap of forgiveness that we just didn't show up for each other great there. Release that little tap. And you know what? Here's what I would like next time. Here's what I would like next time. Here's how this could work better for us next time. So it's releasing all those little taps before they get to, but it's a flipping tsunami coming for you, and women holding resentment for all those little things, whew, it's huge. It's huge. And the same as what you're saying is, I don't want to bring it up because, but all these, I don't want to bring it up because they become so huge, David, that it's just so difficult. So difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. So much there in that, you know, there's the codependency. A lot of us grow up with this, like, you know, you're my other half, like you complete me, you're my best, you're my everything. I want to find my everything person. I've heard that said to me as well.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Yeah. And actually having these independent lives is so healthy for us. And I think the thing I thought was really interesting is when you called about the committed man, the man who's like wanting to be the best dad, the best husband, the best partner, and is very aware. This is my experience of the men that come to me. They're very aware of like the bad husband, the bad dads. Sometimes it was their own dad. Sometimes it was their own parents that they have this experience with. And they're like, I just want to be really, really good. Or they're very aware of the social kind of commentary about men. And they're like, but I'm going to be different. And in that, as you say, they kind of give up themselves. They're overly devotional to their partner. And they under devote themselves to their kind of self, their internal self that needs nourishing and hobbies and joys. And their relationship or their partner's happiness becomes everything to them, to the point where when you ask them like, what makes you happy, they can't give you an answer that's not about their partner, their relationship, or making someone else happy.
If she's happy, I'm happy. If she's happy, I'm happy. You know this better than me, David, but men need a man shed. They need a man cave, whether that's a shed, whether that's a room, whether that's a garage. They need somewhere where they can go and potter, tidy, just do things, just need a man. They need to be doing activities with other men side by side. Men do not speak to each other face to face. If you see a man speaking to another man face to face, they're either in a disagreement, or they've been drinking and they're about to hug and kiss each other because they love each other so much. Man, I love you. Okay? Men don't speak to each other like that. Women desire men to speak face to face. And I'm like, talk to him in the car. Go out for a walk. Do side by side, So much easier for men, especially at the start of this journey, yeah. And encouraging our men to have hobbies. Now, there is no wife or partner in the countryside who's going to want their partner to be out 5 nights a week. But once a week, every 10 days, it might even be ringing their best mate on the way home from work and having a chat, on the phone on the way home from work. Something. But men need other men, and they need to be doing activities side by side with other men, and they need time doing absolutely nothing. And women cannot understand that for love nor money. Women are never doing nothing.
I was on a men's program a few years ago, and the guy running it, he called it, it's time of no demand. Time of no demand.
We have a loch here in the middle in Northern Ireland, and it's 99 miles round the loch. Okay, so they have this. So they cycle. It's called lap the loch. So it's a cycle. So my husband has done it a few times. So obviously you have to train for this. So he's been out cycling, and he'll come home and I'll say, "So, what happened? What happened? Did you listen to a podcast? Or how did you meet anybody? Where'd you stop for coffee? And he just looks at me blankly and goes, really trying here, sweetheart. Really, really trying. Really trying. The loch looked lovely. That's all I got for you." I'm like, are you having a laugh? Now, later on in the afternoon, he might come forward with, I was actually thinking we should do. But see that demanding of, what were you thinking? What were you doing? What were you doing? It's like, it's very, very, very overwhelming. Very overwhelming. And women don't understand that men can just be doing nothing.
And it's wonderful for us, just to do nothing, just to like, I really recommend this to a lot of men. Is like, actually one of the things I give as a task to a lot of guys, especially guys who are very high flying and high performing, is I tell them, I want you to spend an hour. You can't meditate. You're not doing any breath work. You're allowed to have a pad next to you in case there's something that comes up that you need to write down. And you sit there, eyes open. You can sit on your balcony, a beautiful view, no TV, no phone, nothing. Just set a timer for an hour and just sit there. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, honestly, sit and do nothing. And they come back.
We've lost the relationship with rest, haven't we?
Yeah, because we want to be productive. The capitalism has seeped beyond our work into our life, right? So we have to be doing something. And I guess in many ways, as you said, it might suit women to feeling that they have to do something. But many men have got to this point now where they don't rest, and it actually really hurts them because they also don't have men in their lives like you described. They don't have men they stand shoulder to shoulder that they go cycling with, or they go for a walk with, or they go to the gym with, or climbing, or whatever it is. So they never get this time of like rest and recuperation away from their families because they want to be good men. And sometimes what I've seen as well is they feel like going and being with their friends looks bad on them, like I've left my wife with all the kids, or like I definitely had this experience earlier this year. I went to Thailand on a friend's holiday. It was his 40th birthday. And, my partner also was like, yeah, that's fine. No problem. One of her friends flew in from Portugal to stay here. My mum was helping out. My sisters were helping her. Our little boy would have been probably like 9 months at that point. And I was on the plane. I was talking to some of the guys there. And I was like, I feel really bad. I feel really guilty. Actually, I've left her. And a few of the guys are 3 kids in. So they've got more experience.
Like, get me out of here.
And they were like, don't feel guilty because you need this. I was like, wow. They were like, you need this. This is good for you. You need this. So don't feel guilty about it because all that will do is get in the way of you being able to enjoy this. Yeah. And he was like, and she needs you gone too. She might not realize it until you're gone, but she needs you gone too. And it's good for you. And as a coach, I know theoretically in my mind, but emotionally, there's still a part of me. And this is something I'm still working on, is this guilt of, I've left her with our son and I'm being one of these dudes that goes to the gym 3 times a week and that goes missing on the weekend for long walks in the forest. And it's just like, oh my God, I'm a neglectful husband, I'm a neglectful partner and dad, it really comes on quite strong.
Your inner critic is going a little bit crazy there, isn't he?
My inner critic is very active. He's very active.
I call mine Shirley. Except now there's a lady who knows who I am, who lives in this local area called Shirley, and we chat now in Tesco sometimes. So it's very amusing. I'm like, I can change your name. She goes, no, I think it's hilarious. Every time you say Shirley, I just laughed at myself. But yeah, Shirley definitely goes off in times like that. Definitely. Yeah. But no, it's about keeping that internal cup full. So then we can fill the relationship cup and then getting those little taps in the relationship cup and not building that resentment about this, that, and the other thing happened. And it is literally, we can teach a script for it, this thing happened. And when that happened, I felt, not when that happened, you made me, or you did this, or you. Okay, so when that situation happened, maybe someone was late, maybe someone misspoke, maybe something happened with the kids, maybe when that happened, I felt unseen, unheard, disrespected, unwanted, whatever it was. And our partner very simply can say, I am so sorry. I did not intend that. I am so sorry. I sometimes say to my couples, if we were making a cup of coffee and we turned around and almost poured that cup of coffee over our partner, or we accidentally closed the door and stubbed our partner's toe, something like that, we just go, oh, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I am so sorry about that. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I'm so sorry. But when we hurt each other emotionally, we go to defense. Why do we do that? We didn't intend it, unless we're narcissists. We didn't intend it, but we've hurt our person by a flippant comment, by forgetting to get the peanut butter. Well, about peanut butter today, David. No, we've hurt our person. It's okay. Just say sorry. I'm sorry. I did not intend that. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. I did not intend it. And we're done. The anxious attachment style likes to then say, but why? But why? And how will that never happen again? And why do you think you did that? And what checks and balances could be put in to never do that again? Again, we don't do that when it's a cup of coffee. We don't say, do you know what? We're no longer going to have hot drinks in this house. It's mad. It's mad. And sometimes people will say to me things like, I don't want to get hurt again. And I'll say, well, you're going to hurt each other again. Bottom line. Bottom line. If you're going to be with somebody 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you're going to hurt each other. Let's hope you do not intend it ever. But it is unrealistic to say, I don't want to get hurt again. You're going to hurt each other. Now, are we going to be good people and respect our partner and not download Tinder as a married man? That was a real high day that day, David. That was very interesting. You know, are we going to be respectful? Are we going to be in love? Are we going to treat our person with grace and kindness? Yes, but we're still going to hurt each other sometimes, and we're not going to intend it. Yeah.
And some men do download Tinder. This is interesting. It's funny though you mentioned this, right? Because I've been on the radio a couple of times talking about these T apps.
T apps, right? Okay.
T apps, yeah. And was it Are We Dating the Same Guy? I don't know how I've ended up on the radio twice about this same thing, because I don't care about it too much. But and I was never going to go this way. But yeah, it is when it comes down to it, this cheating and, you know, downloading Tinder, you know, looking at what else is on the market, this sort of thing. And there's, through these conversations I had on the radio, generally it was me and another woman or two other women. There's this real framed idea that like men cheat. Like men cheat way more than women do, right? And men will do the ridiculous things like, you know, download Tinder, have a second life, have a second family, and all these sorts of things. And I guess what I'm interested in, the question is from your experience, is it that simple? Is it men cheat and women are, you know, they don't cheat, they don't do those things, and men are reckless and they can't be trusted? Not so much can't be trusted, but what's the landscape of your experience when it comes to things like infidelity?
Women are very lonely. Women get very lonely. Women become very disconnected emotionally from their partner. And that is that's where women would struggle and possibly become too emotionally connected with someone else. Even a friendship, maybe, even just a friendship, they're spending so much time with their children or their friend, and that's where they're getting that connection from. That's where they're getting their emotional connection from, rather than their partner. Yeah. I mean, it is. Guys cheat when, you know, when they are, some guys are perfectly sexually fulfilled at home and still cheat. And whatever that looks like, escort agencies, Tinder, if it just might be looking, watching porn, whatever the case may be. If a partnership, the relationship with porn within a partnership can be so varied, you know, but if we have an arrangement with our partner that we're not watching porn and we do, that's a mistrust. That's a lie. That's a mistrust there, you know? So, but for my women who come to me, it's I've been lonely for so long. I've been trying to reach out. He's so busy. Everybody else gets the best of him. He's a good man. He's such a hard worker. He's such a good provider. But there's just this gap where the men do not know how to meet those emotional needs. And I think we're getting better. My generation definitely only got the messaging that that the man had to provide and protect. Like my daddy grew up in the Second World War. So, you know, what he was teaching us was men provide and protect. And women just are looking for so much more than that now. We are definitely coming away from you complete me and my other half. And what was that one you said? My everything.
You're my everything.
Dear God in heaven, just kill me now. Yeah, we're definitely coming away from that, I believe, as women. I do also think, and this is just my personal take on it, we have spent a generation saying, women, you can work, you can have the children, you can have a partner that supports you, you can da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Brilliant. I mean, the stats now of women at university compared to men at university is
2 to 1.
Unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. And I do have a real heart for, I just don't know if we've given men that same platform to say, okay, the world has changed. My mummy will only ever work part-time. You know, I only work part-time. I know that will not be my children's story. My children will work for full time and expect their partner to work full time and expect it to be 50-50 at all the places. So, and I just don't know, you are, David, but I'm not sure if there's enough of giving men, here's how women need to be supported emotionally. You know, I mean, just very recently we've heard about, women being supported within their, menstrual cycle, and working with females' menstrual cycle. But I mean, that's very recent, David. We didn't hear that 5 years ago. That's a very recent thing. I don't even think women knew that till that. I didn't even think women had permission to say, no, my period is due in 2 days. There's absolutely no way I can do that. We didn't have. In my generation, flip me, could have, that would have been unheard of. I mean, my own daddy would have been like, have you a sore tummy? Away you go to bed. That was the height of that, where I'm bringing my son up totally differently. And I think there's a space for that. There's just a little bit there. There's a little glitch there where we just haven't given the men that same platform for that.
Yeah. I did a talk a while ago at a company. I did a panel talk, and I was saying, women have had a sexual revolution, right? And they've had feminism, which, they don't necessarily go hand in hand. And men have had nothing. There's been no real revolutionary writing of a man's role in society. And now we have two kind of conflicting narratives of you need to be emotionally open and vulnerable, right? And but you also need to be still really need to be the rock, and you need to earn, and you stoic, need to make stoic, you need to make money. And what we now have is these two narratives which can gel together, right? Mm-hmm. But because the human psyche, and often, especially when we feel triggered, we're very binary, right? We're like this or that, right or wrong. I think a lot of men feel really trapped in the middle of, well, when I am emotionally open, women are turned off by me. Mm-hmm. Right? My wife thinks I'm a pussy, right? I've heard men say those words to me. No, I'm not even that. A man told me his wife told him that. Yep. And then if a man is stoic and in his leadership and is directional, he's told that he is toxic. I'm not saying he actually is, but he's, and so a lot of men come to me, they're like, how do I gel? I don't know what to do, because if I go to work and I'm too emotional, I'm not getting that pay rise. I'm not getting that next job, but I'm looking after my whole family. And I think a lot of men are stuck in this middle place of how do I do these two things? How do I be a man in this modern age when I still feel I'm getting these two very different messages that are all pretty much feel contradictory to each other? And out of that, I think we see a lot of this very kind of toxic masculine, influences that are coming forward, because inside this complexity of these two pieces, they are coming in the middle and going, I have a singular answer, just follow me. And I guess why I find this really interesting is because women would have had these same two forces, right? You can be a wife and a mother and a householder, and this was what I guess feminism brought in, and you can be a CEO, you can be an entrepreneur, you can do all the things in the world. And there was this well, you can do both and marry those things. And, there's been a lot of positives and only very few negatives, because some women feel like they have to do it all. And I think that's maybe the message that wasn't quite right. But what men are missing, and I don't know if it will ever happen really, because of the way capitalism functions, really, do they want men to go and make this decision? Because I think they'd be less productive and less likely to be in really shitty jobs they don't enjoy and treat people badly, which is bad for productivity and finance, to actually find a way to healthily marry those things two together. The emotionally in tuned man with the kind of, should we call it, the emotionally resilient man who can lead.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have an answer for you, David.
Go on.
Safety.
As in creating safety for a man to embody both of those things?
If you want to be emotionally in tune with your female partner, you must provide your female partner with safety.
Yes.
Now, back in the day, that safety looked like providing and protecting. Okay? Now that safety looks like, when I bring something up to you, I need to know you're a safe place to land.
Yes.
When I text you, I need to know that you'll get back to me in a reasonable time. When I ring to say something's going on with the kids, I need you to be able to say, I'm in a meeting right now, but I will get back to you in half an hour. Now, we're not advocating that we're all ringing each other 15 times a day, David, because we actually have jobs to do, yeah?
Yep.
When something happens with my extended family, I need to be able to bring that to you without judgment or condemnation. Safety, David. We need our modern men to be safe. We need to know that we can tell you our innermost secrets and you will not go blabbing that round the pub. We need to know that we can do sexual acts with you in a safe way. We need to know that we can tell you our fantasies and we'll be safe. Safety. And the way I explain it, David, is the masculine and feminine energy, two different ways. The masculine energy can either be the banks of a river and the feminine gets to be the water.
Yeah.
But the banks are always safe. The banks are always safe. Now, sometimes there's an occasion that women might be an awful lot, okay? And we might burst those rivers sometimes in a sense of manner of going, okay, that was quite a lot. Let's try to get that just back on track here. Or the way I also describe it is we need the masculine energy to be a bowl, like a beautiful wooden bowl. I don't know why it's a wooden bowl, but in my head it is. And the feminine is the water within the bowl. So she gets to move and develop and grow, but the bowl's always safe. Yeah. 98% of the time, we're all going to have bad days. We're all going to say, I can't today. I just can't today. I'm so sorry. I just can't today. Yeah. But safety is what we need for us to feel safe within sex, safe within intimacy, all those sort of things, that we're going to feel like you are our safe place to land. And I would sometimes say to my couples, say to him, I need to talk to you about something and I need a safe place to land. And that is his cue to get his superhero cape on and settle in his frontal lobe and be able to carry what you're about to bring. And I also tell my women, don't talk all the words, just the, I needed that from you when this happened. Not all the whys and wherefores, just the, I needed that from you when that happened. I often say to women, our communication sits here and it just spews out so beautifully. Men's communication sits back here in the mind, and there's about 16 car wrecks before it gets out the front door. So we got to give you time. Yeah. And then coaching, that comes along really well because women aren't allowed to speak sometimes. It's like, okay, no, he's not done yet. Well, hold on, he's still getting there. He's not done yet, you know. Sometimes I encourage my couples to do put a 3-minute timer on their phone, that sort of thing. But safety is what we must be teaching our modern men, that it's safe for your partner, your female partner, to bring you whatever they need to bring you, and it's going to land in a safe way.
Then the capacity, that's like what I heard in there is a safety, because, safety is such a broad term, right? Physical is the one, when men think of safety, they think of physical safety, like I'm not going to beat anyone, I'm going to hurt anybody. But what I'm hearing you say there, it's this kind of ability to hold the structure emotionally so that when things come into you, towards you, feelings, ideas, that you can hold those in your awareness while staying grounded, not reacting to your own personal emotions about the thing, and respond to your partner, keeping the focus on them and their thing, while just keeping your stuff to one side, like, just holding it there. Like she's saying something to you, for example, that is making you angry.
Triggering you, yeah.
She's triggering you, she's making you angry. And you can just hold that anger like, I have some anger, it's there. But right now, the time is not now to react, to respond to that. The time is to stay grounded, feel the ground, feel the infinite space around us while listening to my partner, and be able to then hold that with her, go through questions, whatever, and then she dissipates and then we move on, right? Potentially, if that's the thing.
So sometimes it's easy to give examples of what's not. So our female partner brings something and we say, look, when that happened yesterday, I felt really, and our male partner goes, oh my God, here we go again. What did I not do yesterday? I did the barbecue. I looked after the kids. I got up with her at 6 o'clock in the morning. Here we go. Complaints as usual. Unsafe. Unsafe. Okay? Safety is, when that happened yesterday, I felt unseen, a little bit disrespected, just really just shook me. I just did and our partner say, tell me more about that. I'm curious about that. Oh, I can see what you mean now. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't intend that. Safety. Unsafe is, here she goes. You're a nag. There she goes again, nagging about this, that, and the other. Would she ever get over it?
So the lack of safety is reactivity, right?
And you're exactly right. It's, they've triggered something in you, and now you're coming back at it. And that's not what we want. We want to take turns.
Yeah. And would I be right in saying the reverse safety is also required, where our female partners can really listen to what's going on for us, what we bring, any complaints we have, without there being the kind of instant emotional reaction to meet that?
Yes, we both have to learn to do these things. So we both have to learn that when our partner comes to us, holding space, what we don't want is for when we bring things to our female partner and they start a whole rant. It's about being able to hold space for each other in a mature, grounded way. And if we say, okay, hold on a second, I'm becoming very triggered, or I need a little break for a minute, that's okay.
Yeah, breaks. I think this is an underrated part of relationship, in all relationships, right? And every time I remember I ran a program for just avoidant men, and one of the guys, I think about 6, 7, 8 weeks in, he was talking in one of the sharing circles with him. He was just like, I've just realized the magic of the pause. And we were all listening and like baby breath. And he was like, I can just pause at any moment in the day. Like my wife can ask me a question and I can just pause for 5-10 seconds before I speak, noticing what initially is the reaction and what's to come up. And then I can decide who I want to be in that moment, the sort of partner I want to be. I can pause. And he was like, this has fundamentally changed our relationship by just being able to pause in conversation. And even said with his children, they do something instead of just reacting, pausing. And this is, I guess I say this all because this reactivity piece it sounds very simple, right? But it takes a lot of work. Like, when I work with men, reactivity is one of the main things we do. We do lots of embodiment practices and breath practices so that they learn to be able to just be and observe as something comes up instead of always reacting to it. Because I think we live in a society now, especially, and this kind of harks back to what I said about people being angry, is that we live in a very reactive culture now. And I do wonder, this is another thing coming to me, is like, is it social media that's created this? But everyone is very reactive to whatever happens straight away and and maybe it's always been like this, but I just never noticed it because of my work. But we don't do very well at just pausing and going, oh, something's happening. Let me see how I want to respond to this instead of just responding straight away. And how, that can be so detrimental to relationships.
We are taught this when it comes to our children. You don't react to your child's temper tantrum. You don't react to when they even maybe swear or something. It's like, oh, don't react, I'll go away. We are taught it when it comes to our children. We're not taught it when it comes to a romantic partner. We're not taught to be able to say, okay, can I think about that? Let me see what's going on for me in my body. Where is this triggering? Big one for me is I would have been quite undermined by my father. So when something comes up for me and I feel triggered, I have to pause and say, hold on a second. Is this a wound of feeling that unseen? Or is it, he's just busy? Is it a real wound, or do we need to discuss it? And maybe it is, look, when that happens, it really does bring up that wound for me. And being aware of our partner's woundedness is so huge, really useful.
Yeah, really useful. It's one of those underrated things, understanding our partner's wounds and fears and so forth. And Because in those times, what I see this in my own relationship with my partner, is you're able to see it like, she's reacting to me as if I am her father. And if we can, the power then can be is that we can go, hey, I didn't just ignore you. I just didn't hear what you said. I missed 3 of the words that you said. So I'm asking you what you said. Because you can speak through the reaction into the kind of, not necessarily to the wound, but the part of them is more conscious, and your partner, not the little girl that's there, that's, reacting to you. It gives a lot of power. But I found a lot of people they fear having those things used against them. That's the thing that comes up. And a lot of them, and I work with, I don't want to open up, because if I tell her about that happened in my childhood, she will use that against me. And then they can bring out, various examples of this happened before in the past. But it can be so powerful when we understand our partners that deeply.
It's so powerful when we know what's going on there. It really, really is, and it's powerful for us to say, look, there's a chance here I could be overreacting. There's a possibility I could be overreacting here. But it's still hurt. It's still hurt, and our partner giving us a hug and saying, I'm sorry, babe. I didn't intend it. It's having that, what you said too, David, the grace, just the kindness and the grace. And we just get so triggered, and our partner will trigger us. And we drop out of the thinking mind and we go back to this adapted child, and we're just 2 13-year-olds, arguing it out, and just fighting to be right instead of just wanting to be heard, We don't have to agree. We can just want to be heard. It's fine. We can have different opinions about things, somebody could say, I love David's podcast. Somebody could say, I'm not so keen on it. Doesn't make one right or wrong. Yeah. It just is. It just is, and it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. We don't have to. I do think that there's something going on at the minute, David. Everybody is just raging. Everybody is just livid. There's people shouting out car windows. There's just, everybody's just so activated. And maybe this is the perfect time to be teaching emotional intelligence and regulating our nervous system and not having to respond to every trigger in our body,
Yeah. Amen.
Maybe.
Well, Lisa, this has been a fantastic conversation. We've run further on than time-wise than I expected. It's been such a pleasure.
I'll tell you what my son, my 17-year-old son, one of his sisters was saying something, and then I just said, and he said, did you let your adoptive child organize that situation for you? And she just looked at him and she was like, yes, but it just had to be said. And he was like, do you not know that you have to go and regulate yourself and then come back to the conversation? You sound very dysregulated there. Well, you can imagine how that went down, can't you, David?
Oh, I can only guess.
And I would also have to say that what he's being taught in school now is actually, I just thought schools were never going to catch on, sorry, but he is being taught a lot of this. He's obviously getting taught it in the house, but he's obviously getting taught a lot of it in school as well, which is great.
Wow, that's incredible.
Good.
God,
yeah, it is very good.
So needed when I was at school and didn't arrive for my generation.
There's a school in Northern Ireland at the minute is teaching about love languages. I'm like, what is this world we're living in at the minute? It's mad. It's mad.
It's amazing. It's amazing what the information that's available to young people, the conversations even I have with young people who are early 20s about love and relationships. And I'm like, I didn't even know these things until I was about 35, and I have a lot of hope. A lot of people are raging because of the state of the world, but I have a incredible amount of hope because I think there's a lot of young people that have the capacity to change the world. If the older generation, they can wrestle the power away from them because we're changing relationships. And my belief is when we start to change relationships at this level, the human to human level, we get different types of leaders, we get different types of parents, we get different types of children, and it starts to trickle on. It just may take 200 years to really trickle through the world.
Could we go for 100, David? If we keep doing what we're doing, can we get it down to 100?
I think we need aliens. My theory is if aliens clearly come to attack the Earth, we'll all galvanize.
You think so? That's the master plan, David.
That's I don't know when the aliens are going to come. I haven't been channeling any aliens or anything, so I can't be sure. But that's what humans need. We need aliens.
Plan. We need a common cause.
Yeah. Well, we'll finish up there, Lisa. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I'm sure the listeners are wondering where they can hear more from you, where they can find you if they want to work with you and listen to more of your wonderful wisdom.
So relationship.coaching.ni on Instagram. The website's there, Relationship Coach NI. I'm a little bit active on TikTok, but I think TikTok's doing wonderful things, but it's just not for me. I think I'm just too old for all that. My Instagram family is lovely and I love it there. And hopefully I'll be coming over to London and such like to do more podcasts. I've been over a few times. I love it. It's good. It's good exposure for me. But yeah, if you follow me on there, that would be lovely.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. And listeners, this is one of those episodes that you really should pass on to a friend, a couple that because they need to hear this. They need to hear all these wonderful tips and tidbits, right, where they're probably struggling in a relationship. So share the love, pass the episode on. And it's enough from me, and I'll say ciao, ciao.